Welcome to Samoa, an island nation that's more than its picturesque beaches. It's got stories carved into skin and a legacy shaped by chiefs, rebels, and colonial rule. So if you want to learn more about what makes this country so fascinating, keep watching, because we're going to explore its history, geography, culture, and economy. The story of Samoa starts over 3,000 years ago, when a group of skilled ocean travellers set off across the Pacific in wooden canoes. They were called the Lapita people, the ancestors of today's Polynesians. Guided only by the stars, they sailed from places like eastern New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, and eventually landed on the shores of what we now call Samoa. Over time, these settlers built a strong sea-centred society. They grew crops like taro and breadfruit, fished the open ocean, and travelled to nearby islands. Some even believe Samoa was the original homeland of all Polynesians, which is why it's often called the cradle of Polynesia. And for centuries, Samoa was anything but isolated. There was constant movement between Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji. People traded, intermarried, and yes, fought. In fact, around 950 AD, warriors from Tonga tried to take over. They captured the island of Savaii, but when they moved on to Upolu, a Samoan chief named Malietoa Savea led a resistance and pushed them back. That victory earned him the name Brave Warrior. But even within Samoa, things weren't always peaceful. Villages often clashed as families and chiefs competed for land and power. But through all of it, Samoans stayed grounded in tradition. Life revolved around family, village councils, and the Whea Samoa, also known as the Samoan way of life. It wasn't until 1722 that the Europeans entered the picture, when a Dutch explorer named Jacob Roggeveen passed by. But the real change began in 1830, when a missionary named John Williams arrived on the island of Savaii. He brought Christianity, and after converting a high-ranking chief, the rest of the islands followed. Soon churches were everywhere, and the old gods were replaced by the Christian faith. But with missionaries came colonizers. So by the late 1800s, Samoa was caught in a tug-of-war between three big powers: Germany, the United States, and Britain. At the same time, Samoan chiefs were fighting over who should be king. Each side tried to use the others for support, and the result was chaos. It all came to a head in 1889, when warships from all three countries lined up in Apia Harbour, only to be wiped out by a surprise cyclone. That storm basically forced everyone to back down. Eventually, in 1899, the three powers made a deal to divide the islands. Germany took the western half, and the US took the east, or what we now know as American Samoa. The Samoan people had no say in this decision, and many were angry about it. Under German rule, Western Samoa saw new roads, hospitals, and schools. And foreign companies started bringing in workers from China and Melanesia to work on plantations. But not everyone liked how things were changing. In 1908, a Samoan chief named Lawaki Namulaulu started a protest movement called the Mau Apule. He wanted to protect the Samoan way of life and push back against colonial control. So, when the German governor called in warships, Lawaki surrendered and was exiled. But not before the seeds of resistance had been planted. Then came World War I. In 1914, New Zealand troops arrived and took control of Western Samoa from the Germans. But things took a dark turn in 1918, when the SS Talon, a ship from New Zealand, docked without proper quarantine. It brought the flu, and the outbreak that followed killed more than 1 in 5 Samoans. The people blamed New Zealand for not protecting them, and the push for independence got stronger. That's when the Mau movement really took off. It was a peaceful protest led by Olaf Frederick Nelson. But the New Zealand government wasn't happy. So, in 1929, New Zealand police opened fire and killed several unarmed Samoans, including a high-ranking chief named Tupua Tamasese Lealofi III. That day became known as Black Saturday, and instead of crushing the movement, it made the Samoan people even more determined. Eventually, change came. In 1935, a new government in New Zealand recognised the Mau as a legitimate political group. And over the next couple of decades, Samoa slowly gained more control of its own government. In 1962, it became the first Pacific Island nation to gain independence. Susuga Malietoa Tanumafili II was named co-head of state and later became the sole head of state, a role he held until his death in 2007. Okay, you get the picture of Samoa's history. Now imagine this. You're floating in the middle of the South Pacific, surrounded by clear blue water, bright green islands, and nothing but open ocean for hundreds, thousands of miles in every direction. That's Samoa. It's made up of 9 islands. 4 of them, namely Upolu, Savaii, Manono, and Apolima, have people living on them. The other 5 are uninhabited, kind of like little green gems scattered across the sea. Vanuatu, Namua, Nu'utele, Nu'ulua, and Nu'usafi. Upolu is where the capital, Apia, is located. It's the heartbeat of the country, and basically where you'll find the government buildings, the markets, the harbours, and a good chunk of the population. Savaii, on the other hand, is the largest island. Think rugged, less developed, and full of wild beauty. It's also the one that, according to legend, was the original Polynesian homeland, Hawaii. Geographically, the whole country is smaller than Rhode Island, with just under 3,000 square kilometres, or 1,160 square miles of land. American Samoa is even smaller, which is about the size of Washington, D.C., but still it holds a big place in Samoan culture. In fact, the 2 Samoas are only about 40 miles or 64 kilometres apart, with Upolu and American Samoa's Tutuila Island facing each other across the sea. Then there's the Manua Group. These are 3 even smaller islands east of Tutuila, which are a part of American Samoa too. Now, if you're wondering what the weather's like, imagine the kind of place where it's summer, all year round. Temperatures hang around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or 27 degrees Celsius, give or take a few degrees. The climate is tropical, so yes, it's humid. And yes, it rains. A lot. And while the southeast winds help cool things down during the wet season, which is typically from November to April, the winds shift, and that's when big storms and even typhoons can roll in. Speaking of rain, Samoa has a lot of dense rainforests, misty cloud forests, coconut groves, and taro plantations lining the coasts. Ole Pupupue was the country's first national park created back in 1978, and it covers about 11 square miles, or 28 square kilometres, on the south side of Upolu. As for animals, it's not like a jungle safari, but there's still some cool stuff. You've got flying foxes and big fruit bats that are actually native to Samoa, though they're endangered now. There are also tiny bats, lizards, snakes from the boa family, and a ton of insects. Oh, and birds. More than 50 species, with at least 16 that are totally unique to the islands, including the super rare tooth-billed pigeon, which some folks call the little dodo. Alright, so Samoa might look like paradise. And yeah, it totally is, but running a country made up of small islands in the middle of the Pacific isn't exactly a breeze, especially when you're trying to grow an economy, protect the environment, and keep people connected, all at once. Politically speaking, Samoa's in a pretty stable place. The current government, led by the Fast Party and Prime Minister Fiame Naomi Maatafa, is expected to serve her full term until 2026. Not only that, but she also made history as Samoa's first female Prime Minister, which is a pretty big deal. One of the government's big focuses right now is developing agriculture and pushing forward with land reforms, making it easier for people to use land productively. They're also working to clean up the process for foreign investment. So if someone wants to bring money into Samoa and start a business, the rules are becoming more transparent and predictable. It's all about creating trust and making it clear that Samoa's open for business. And while we're on the subject of business, let's talk about the economy. Much like a lot of places in the South Pacific, Samoa really took a hit during the pandemic. Tourism dropped off a cliff and everything slowed down. But now that travel has opened back up, visitors are returning and things are starting to bounce back. The challenge now is how to keep that momentum going. But even though tourism is huge, it's not without its headaches. Natural disasters like cyclones, earthquakes, and tsunamis can turn everything upside down in a flash. On top of that, running a business in a remote place like Samoa comes with its own set of hurdles, like unreliable infrastructure, limited public services, and not enough skilled workers. So for local businesses, just staying afloat is tough. And getting outside investors interested, even tougher. So to remedy that, the government knows it has to invest in infrastructure, meaning better roads, ports, energy systems, and especially internet access. Besides aiding the business side of things, digital tech is also helping with stuff like education, healthcare, and even government services. Imagine being able to register a business or pay your taxes without having to wait in line or travel to a government office. That's the goal. In fact, Samoa's working on making it easier for informal businesses like roadside food stands or craft sellers to get officially registered. That way, they can access loans, training, and other resources to grow. One more thing, a lot of families in Samoa rely on remittances. By helping small businesses grow, Samoa's creating more opportunities for people to invest that money locally instead of just spending it. Because at the end of the day, it's about turning cash into something sustainable. And all these efforts have started to pay off. Samoa's GDP hit around $1.07 billion in 2024. That's nearly $1 billion jump since 1980. By 2030, it's expected to rise another $386 million. If anything, it's a clear sign that, despite the challenges, the economy is moving forward. But beyond the numbers and growth charts, what really makes Samoa stand out is its living, breathing culture. And one thing you should know is this: everything revolves around Fa'a Samoa, which literally means the Samoan way. It's a lifestyle that's been going strong for over 3,000 years, and it's all about community. Because in Samoa, you're not just an individual doing your own thing. You're part of a village that's looking out for each other. And that's probably why Samoans are some of the warmest and most welcoming people you'll ever meet. They don't just say hello, they'll make an effort to invite you in, offer you food, maybe even ask you to join the family volleyball game. Now, speaking of joining in, you're definitely going to want to see a fiafia night while you're here. These traditional cultural shows, often hosted by resorts or at the cultural village in Opentiera, are where Samoan dance truly comes alive. It usually starts with the siva, which is a slow, elegant dance performed by women that tell stories through graceful movements. After that, there's the fa'ata party, or the slap dance. It's super loud, fast, and full of energy, usually performed by men. Then for the big finale, the siva afi, a fire knife dance that's basically equal parts tradition, athleticism, and daredevilry. But more than mere performance, culture here is embraced in everyday life. And what I mean by this is, in villages, you'll see people living in fails. These are open-sided houses where the breeze flows through and life happens communally. Church bells ring on Sunday mornings, and you'll often hear beautiful singing coming from services all over the islands. And if we want to go even deeper into understanding their national identity, of course we have to talk about the tattoos, or tatau as they're called here. To them, it's a rite of passage that's full of symbolism and meaning. For men, the malafi covers the body from waist to knee and signals their readiness to serve the community. For women, the malu is more delicate, but just as meaningful. It shows strength, maturity, and responsibility. Tattoos are earned here, not chosen lightly. The same goes for their art, music, and storytelling. Samoans have passed down legends and chants orally for generations. These include epic tales of gods, ancestors, and the origins of the islands. You'll see these stories reflected in everything from traditional tattoos to handicrafts, and even in the speeches delivered by matai or chiefs at ceremonies or meetings. And if sport is your thing, you're in the right place. Rugby's a national obsession, but locals also love soccer, volleyball, and kilakiti, a kind of Samoan cricket that's rowdy, joyful, and usually ends in laughter and food. So, if you ever get the chance to join a village game, don't hesitate. Samoa really makes you see the world differently, especially when it comes to how they live. And it got me thinking, in a world that revolves around individualism, there's a way of life out there that's not all about getting ahead, but rather about lifting others up. So it kind of makes you wonder, would the world feel a little less chaotic if we all lived a bit more like they do in Samoa? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. If you love this video, you'll love this next one.